On the day we were set to embark on our honeymoon, I was blindsided when Daniel handed me divorce papers instead. He announced, with a chilling detachment, that he was taking his entire family on what was supposed to be our trip. Coldly, he added, "If you have a problem with it, we can just go our separate ways." Internally, I was fuming, but I kept my composure and calmly responded, "Fine, but don't forget, I'm still my own person." His shocked expression gave me a fleeting sense of victory. My name is Samantha. I'm 37 years old, and I work in real estate, a career I genuinely love and find fulfilling. I'm fortunate to have supportive colleagues, but despite my professional success, my personal life feels stagnant. I don't have any hobbies, and I've never had a boyfriend before Daniel. A growing concern had been weighing on me as I watched most of my friends marry in their 30s. I was one of the few still single, and it didn't help that my younger colleagues were progressively leaving the company, which left me with a pang of loneliness. Then, through a mutual friend, I met Daniel. He was 3 years younger than me, with a comforting smile that immediately drew me in. He didn't talk much, he preferred to listen, but he always made sure my opinions were valued whenever decisions had to be made. Having no prior experience in relationships, I quickly grew attached to him. As our relationship evolved, I brought up the idea of marriage, and Daniel agreed without hesitation. Marriage is a huge commitment. It's planning a wedding, a honeymoon, building a new home together. I was eager for us to make these decisions jointly, but Daniel always deferred to me, never sharing his preferences. Over time, this made him feel distant, less reliable. My dissatisfaction with him began to grow, especially when his mother came into the picture. Daniel's mother was nothing like him. Where he was easygoing, she was overbearing, rarely considering my views and often imposing her own. "Samantha, once you're married, you'll quit your job and focus on the home, right? You're not getting any younger. If you wait too long, you'll have trouble having kids," she remarked during one of our first meetings. "Daniel is working hard, so as a woman, you should concentrate on the family. It's a wife's duty to support her husband." She adhered to such outdated beliefs. Ironically, I earned more than Daniel, something he didn't mind but had mentioned to his parents. His mother, however, looked down on this. "A woman who earns more than a man isn't charming. Can you even manage household chores? A wife should cook, do laundry, clean, and take care of her husband's health. Can you do that?" she challenged, clearly underestimating me. Contrary to her assumptions, I had been living independently for years, managing all my household tasks without any issue. I had no intention of quitting my job after marriage either. I wanted to maintain a balance between my personal and professional life, but whenever his mother criticized me, Daniel remained silent. He didn't defend me, just nodded along with her. This planted seeds of doubt about his ability to stand up for me or be a reliable partner. His lack of support left me feeling uneasy about our future. I questioned whether I could truly rely on him when it mattered. Despite him being younger, I had hoped he might grow into a more dependable partner with time. But a part of me feared that if this marriage didn't work, I might never get married at all. My mind was in constant turmoil, torn between anxiety and longing, all while time moved forward without mercy. As the wedding preparations continued, from selecting a honeymoon destination to figuring out time off from work, my to-do list only grew, adding to my mounting unease. It was as if the more I tried to move forward, the heavier the weight of everything became. One day, I decided to discuss our plans with Daniel. Considering our busy work schedules, I brought up the idea of timing our honeymoon carefully. This might be our only chance to take a long vacation. "Should we plan the honeymoon during this time?" I asked. "Yeah, that sounds good to me," Daniel replied without much thought. It seemed like a rare opportunity, as both of us would be free from work simultaneously. However, the wedding venue I had always dreamed of was so popular that it was fully booked for over a year. Faced with this dilemma, I proposed an unconventional solution. "What do you think about having the honeymoon before the wedding?" I suggested. I looked into it, and some couples do that. If we wait to have the wedding first, it could be another 3 years before we can go on this trip. "If you're okay with it, Samantha, then I'm fine with it too," Daniel said without hesitation. His easy agreement gave me a sense of relief, but it also left me feeling conflicted. While part of me appreciated the lack of opposition, I wished he would share his own thoughts more often. His constant acceptance of my ideas felt bittersweet, as if he wasn't really invested. Still, I was glad that we could move forward without any disagreements, so I pressed ahead with planning our honeymoon and wedding. After much consideration, we settled on Europe as our destination. I had been torn between Florida and Europe right up until the last minute. Florida was closer, but I figured we could visit it any time. The allure of Italy and Spain was too strong to resist. I was eager to wander through their beautiful streets, savor delicious food, and indulge in shopping for stylish accessories and unique tableware to celebrate the start of our new life together. Once our schedules and destinations were aligned, I finalized all the arrangements about a month before our departure. By that time, my excitement was at its peak. This would be my first overseas trip, and I was buzzing with enthusiasm, my mind filled with thoughts of Europe. From buying travel essentials to planning our activities, I was entirely consumed by the thrill of what lay ahead. In the midst of all this excitement, any lingering frustrations I had with Daniel seemed to fade away. Everything was falling into place, until just a week before our honeymoon, Daniel brought up something unexpected. It was rare for him to make any requests, so I was immediately intrigued, wondering if it might have something to do with our trip. Maybe he had found a specific place he wanted to visit in Paris. Filled with curiosity, I waited for him to speak. I asked him, "What's on your mind, Daniel?" Quite innocently, he made his request. "I want to visit Finch Melody Auditorium while we're in Paris. Mom wants to go there." I was taken aback. "Your mother? Wait, what do you mean?" I stammered, struggling to process this sudden change in our plans. To Daniel, it seemed like an obvious addition. "Well, since everyone else is going," he explained as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I felt a wave of disbelief as I grappled with the realization that my honeymoon was being turned into a family vacation. "We'll all be together during the trip, right?" Daniel said casually, as if this bombshell wasn't shattering everything I had envisioned. "What do you mean by everyone?" I asked, confused. "It's our honeymoon. It should just be the two of us." Daniel remained unfazed. "My mom thinks it's normal for the whole family to come along." I was floored. "Daniel, I only made reservations for two. Just you and me. The booking deadline was a week ago. Today's the last day to confirm our plans, and I've only registered us," I said, trying to keep my composure. "It might still be possible for the whole family to join. If you talk to the travel agency, it might sort something out," Daniel suggested, his optimism almost infuriating. Before I could respond, the intercom buzzed. On the screen, I saw my in-laws standing outside with several bags. Without waiting for an invitation, they barged into the house. My mother-in-law's eyes gleamed with excitement as she announced, "I thought I'd drop off the luggage here since we're leaving soon. I'm so excited." Daniel quickly took control of the situation, ignoring my mounting frustration. "Just leave the luggage here," he said, leading them into the room as if this was completely normal. "Wait a minute," I interjected, desperately trying to halt the chaos. But my mother-in-law shot me a sharp look. "What's the matter, Samantha? I hope you're not saying you don't want us all to go together now," she challenged, her tone condescending. "I never agreed to this in the first place," I retorted, my voice firm. She dismissed me with a wave of her hand. "You heard her, she just said no," she stated, as if my objections were of no consequence. Then turning to Daniel, she coaxed him further. "But you always thought we would go together, right?" "Yeah," Daniel replied simply, supporting his mother's assumption without hesitation. My mother-in-law seized on his agreement, her smug smile growing. "It's completely normal for the husband's parents to go on the honeymoon. Don't you have any common sense?" Her words left me questioning everything, not just the trip, but the very foundation of my relationship with Daniel. As the tension escalated, she attempted to smooth things over with a troubling statement that only deepened my doubts. "I hope you won't ruin the trip with any unpleasantness. It's a special honeymoon, after all. And we all want to make good memories, right?" my mother-in-law said, her voice dripping with condescension. "I'll make sure to teach you some common sense this week before we leave." She spoke as if it were a given that she and the rest of the family would be joining us. I felt my frustration boiling over. "This is a honeymoon, you know. Normally, it's just the husband and wife," I countered, refusing to back down. I knew that if I gave in to her demands now, it would set a terrible precedent for our future. I was determined not to let that happen. But she remained unyielding, dismissing my concerns outright. "The husband's parents joining the honeymoon is just common sense. I can't believe you don't want to be with us. I thought we were becoming a family, but it seems our ideas of common sense are different." You don't seem to like me, and nothing seems to match. How sad, she lamented with exaggerated disappointment, her tone tinged with insincerity. Her furrowed brows and words, "How sad," seemed laced with a hidden smirk, convincing me she was deliberately manipulating the situation. To my dismay, Daniel sided with her without hesitation. "Samantha, what's wrong with you? They're my parents. It's okay for them to come on the honeymoon, right?" "It's not possible," I declared firmly, my patience wearing thin. "We've already booked reservations for two. Plus, I've never heard of families joining the honeymoon trip." Daniel's response was heated, as if itching for a confrontation. "I never realized you disliked my parents so much, Samantha," he exclaimed, his voice rising in disbelief. Then, coldly dismissing the conversation, he added, "That's enough. Just leave for today," his gaze piercing, as if he couldn't fathom my stance. As his words hung in the air, a sly smile spread across my mother-in-law's face. I stood there, bewildered and hurt, wondering why Daniel always sided with her, especially in such a crucial moment. The door slammed shut behind me, and in that fleeting moment, I caught a glimpse of her smug expression, a look that celebrated her victory. Alone, standing outside, I felt utterly abandoned. My heart ached as I wondered how I had been painted as the villain in this scenario, why this special trip, meant to be ours, was now on the verge of being ruined. Overwhelmed by frustration and sadness, tears began to stream down my face. A few hours later, my phone buzzed with a message from Daniel. "I want you to check if it's still possible for my parents to join the tour. If not, we'll cancel this trip and find one that all of us can go on. Please think rationally and reconsider. We can sort this out if you do." His words stung, devoid of any acknowledgement of my feelings. Instead, there was only a cold insistence on his version of rationality. He didn't contact me again after that message, and as time passed, the distance between us only grew wider. I could sense that Daniel was likely just as upset as I was, though he hid it well. The day of our supposed honeymoon finally arrived, and despite everything, I had no intention of enjoying it. But after a month of preparations, I couldn't just walk away. As I was getting ready, the intercom buzzed. It was Daniel, here to pick me up. We hadn't seen each other since that heated argument, and I wasn't sure how to act around him. His arrival suggested he still intended to go on the trip, but there was something off. He had no luggage with him. Instead, he was holding a set of divorce papers in his hand. "You still plan to go on this trip after hurting my parents, didn't you?" he accused, his voice heavy with disappointment. "I'm taking my whole family on this honeymoon. If you don't like it, let's get a divorce." His words hit me like a brick, cold, final, and with no room for compromise. It was clear that in Daniel's eyes, his familial ties outweighed our relationship, and his mother's influence was the deciding factor. I stood there, caught between heartbreak and disbelief, realizing my marriage was ending before it had even begun. Daniel thrust the divorce papers toward me, his tone chilling. "My mom said it would be better this way." In that moment, everything became crystal clear. I had always thought Daniel would listen to me, value my feelings, and show me kindness. But now I saw him for what he was, someone who lacked conviction and placed his family's desires above our relationship. My feelings for him cooled sharply as I grasped the reality of our situation. Marrying him seemed pointless, especially with his overbearing mother in the picture. The future I saw with them was one filled with endless compromises and constant interference. Determined, I pointed at the divorce papers he held and responded with a decisiveness that took him aback. "Sure," I said, my voice unwavering, "but remember, I'm still single." "Single? What do you mean?" Daniel looked genuinely confused, his earlier composure slipping. "Weren't you listening? We talked about delaying the marriage registration until the day of the ceremony. I made sure to get your agreement. You didn't forget, did you? The marriage certificate is still in the drawer. You even said, 'If you're fine with it, Samantha, then I'm fine too.' That's right, divorce or not, we're not even married yet, so there's no problem with me going on the honeymoon under my maiden name." For a brief moment, Daniel's face flickered with recognition before turning crimson with frustration. "Are you out of your mind? You're giving up on marriage just because of a honeymoon. Get a grip," he exclaimed, his tone rising. Matching his intensity, I responded firmly, "No, Daniel. I'm giving up on you because you've already made it clear where your priorities lie." I stood my ground, unwavering. "This is the result of me being rational," I said firmly. "You've shown where your priorities lie, and I have to protect my interests and well-being. This wasn't just about a trip, it was about standing up for myself and my autonomy in a relationship that was turning into a web of conditional terms and unreasonable expectations. I realized that I had been so eager to get married that I lost sight of the reality I was stepping into. I can be happy with someone who doesn't respect my opinions or support me, I continued, my voice steady. I'd rather stay single for life. Thanks for helping me see that haste truly does make waste. Daniel's expression softened as his voice wavered. Samantha, let's calm down and start over, okay? He pleaded, his eyes almost brimming with tears. But I wasn't swayed. My resolve had solidified. I was determined to break free. In a moment of clarity, I raised my voice. If you're so desperate for a family trip, why don't you go with your family of 3? This time, plan it all yourself from the reservations to the itinerary. After always relying on others, it's about time you understand how difficult it is. If you think you can handle it, go ahead. Take the reins, you indecisive man. Without hesitation, I pulled out the unsigned marriage certificate from the drawer and tore it into shreds right in front of him. His mouth fell open in shock, his face a mix of disbelief and panic. Do you understand how serious I am now? I asked, my voice unwavering. I refuse to have a future dictated by others. It's over between us. Go cry to your beloved mommy, you mama's boy. I turned and slammed the front door behind me, leaving the stunned Daniel in the silence of his own making. I could almost picture him running to his mother, seeking comfort and validation. That evening, I contacted the tour company to cancel our honeymoon reservations. Even though it was a last-minute cancellation and I faced a financial loss, the sense of liberation, knowing I had made a decision for my well-being, was worth every penny. Afterward, I decided to bill Daniel for the entire cost of the trip. It was his actions, after all, that led to this fiasco. It only seemed fair. Later, Daniel tried to shift the blame for our failed relationship onto me, spreading rumors among our friends and coworkers. But his attempts backfired. Among our circle, he quickly earned a reputation as a mama's boy, a label that stuck thanks to his past behavior. His bid for sympathy didn't gain him much favor. When I told my parents about the divorce, they were initially surprised but quickly supportive. Marriage isn't the only path to happiness, they reminded me. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. Their words were a great comfort during such a turbulent time. On a brighter note, this ordeal reignited my passion for travel. Instead of letting the honeymoon go to waste, I decided to take my first solo trip. Traveling alone to overseas destinations was daunting at first, but it turned out to be incredibly fulfilling. I visited historic cities I had always dreamed of, and to my surprise, I found that I enjoyed the solitude. These solo adventures opened up a new realm of freedom and discovery for me. I began to love traveling on my terms, and now, I'm eagerly planning my next trip abroad. This new chapter of my life is one where I'm no longer defined by marriage or controlled by others' expectations. Instead, I'm embracing a life of exploration, of the world, and of myself.